Today I'm going to show you a few things that some people, well, they're a bit skeptical about 3D printing and 3D printed items. So I'm going to show you a few of the uses that I've come up with. 3D printing, practical or not practical? I think it's practical. You may or may not know that one of my other interests is woodworking. I do a lot of woodworking, and I'm currently speaking to you in front of a green screen which I have no idea what Anthony is putting up behind me. And I'm actually recording this in my garage cum workshop. I do a lot of woodworking. I'm not good at woodworking, but I enjoy it. And I'll show you a couple of things at the end that I've made recently. But I thought I should be able to combine my 3D printing and my woodworking. So I went on to Thingiverse and a couple of others and did a bit of searching on woodworking tools and bits and pieces. And I'll show you what I come up with. Right, first thing, I bought myself a table saw. It's a Dewalt Table Saw. Cost me an arm and a leg, but, well, not literally, but I love it. So I thought I need to print some things to help me with the table saw so that I don't lose an arm and a leg. So the first thing I found was this. If any of you have done any woodworking, you will be familiar with this jig that you use for pushing your timber through a table saw. Its proprietary equivalent is called a micro jig, but I found this one on Thingiverse and printed it. It's printed in ABS, and you just stick on some non-slip stuff on the bottom. It has all the adjustable gizmos that you need and spare other gizmos, and I find that really useful for using on my table saw. It saves your fingers and works really well pushing stuff through. So that was one thing that I printed. That was a fairly big job. I even vapored the handle so that it was nice and smooth. You might be able to see that. Okay, that's the first thing I did. Then I decided that I like the idea of push sticks. Push sticks are again for pushing stuff through the table saw. So I found that one. Where are we? There. Okay, it works like that. You hook that onto the timber and push it through your table saw. That one works really well. And this one, again, pushing through this way, works really well as well. Now, I didn't design these. These are all available on Thingiverse. And there's a couple of others which I didn't like so much as that one. That one, which is much the same as the other one, which not real keen on those ones. But you also find on a table saw that sometimes you need a little extra support. So I printed some, these are called feather boards. And as you can see, these are flexible. And these help hold your work against the rip fence on a table saw. So I printed a couple of these, that one and that one, a smaller one. And these again are used on the table saw to make your life easier so that you don't cut your fingers off. So I've used all of those and they work really well. I then went on to a couple of the other YouTube channels. Specifically, there was Izzy Swan's channel. There was DIY for Knuckleheads. There was the Wood Whisperer. And what was the other one? Colin Kennett. I can't remember the name of his channel. And they used a few things that I liked the look of, so I printed them instead of making them out of wood. Firstly, we have a center finder. Okay, that works pretty simply. Wait one sec. I'll get a bit of wood. or timber as we like to call it. This is actually Tasmanian oak. Okay, beautiful stuff. Now if you needed to find the centre here, you just pop that on there, turn it around so that the pegs are on it, like so. Put your pencil in the hole and you've got the centre of the piece of timber. Now, if your timber is bigger, like this one, you get a bigger one. Put it on, same deal. Where are we? Slide it up and down, pencil in the middle. Perfect, centre finder. How easy is that? Next off, I found that there were some popular things for joinery in woodworking called pocket holes. There are a few commercial pocket hole jigs on the market, but again, on Thingiverse, you can make your own. That is a pocket hole jig. Okay, I've used this one, as you can see on the back there. So what happens is you insert your drill in here with this clamped to the timber. It would be that way. You clamp that down to the timber, drill in through here, and that creates angled holes in the timber so that you can screw it into another piece of timber. And that's just a clamp-on simple pocket hole jig. And like I said, I've used that one. So I went one step further, and again on Thingiverse, I printed this. Now this is a copy of a commercial pocket hole jig. Now this is your actual drilling jig, all right? This is the drill that you need. You'll see it's got a different tip on the end and a collar. That goes in there, like so, and down into your piece of timber, which sits in here, which the vise holds into position. And I've used this and it works brilliantly well. Even though I'm not a big fan of pocket holes, this one works very, very well. I like it. I didn't bother sleeving the holes with metal pipe, as some suggest, because I figure if I use it and I tear out the inside too much, I just print another one. Yeah, it takes no time at all. So that's that one. Next up, my preferred method of joinery is using dowels. I like to use dowels. Again, here's my Tassie oak. Now to join that piece onto that piece, like so, for making a table or what have you, I like to use dowels, which you dowel in to the end here. You insert dowels, you drill corresponding holes in here, and they go together like that. Now the problem with dowels is you have to be super accurate with your hole positioning so that your joint is nice and super accurate, nice and tight. A doweling jig. Again, these are commercially available, but I printed this. Okay, you'll see it's got holes. You've got a slot, okay? And what you do is you get your piece of timber, you put your doweling jig on top. First off, you make your mark where you want your dowel to go. You line your mark up with the slot, like that, and drill your holes. And then you do the corresponding on the piece that you're joining to, like so. Line up your mark, drill your holes, and your dowels fit beautifully. Very simple print. I've done those in different sizes. That was a 10mm dowel. These ones are for 6mm dowels, so smaller ones. And then I found a better version, which is this one. And this one works in the same way. You put it on the wood like so, line up your mark and drill, but it gives you more depth to keep your drill centered, and it's just a more solid, easier to use piece. So that's the original version straight off Thingiverse, but I modified it, which I often do. Firstly, I made a bigger version. This one is for 10mm dowels. And then I thought, well, that one only does one hole at a time. We need one that does more than one hole. So I made this one. Now, it's just a remix in Thingiverse of the first one. Again, works the same way. On your wood or on your wood, like so. And you can drill multiple holes. So if you want a really solid join, you can do multiple holes all at once. Ingenious, I thought. So that works really good. I like this one a lot. Clamping. When you're putting more than two, several pieces of timber together to make a tabletop or something like that, you need a big clamp. I don't have any big clamps. I forget what they call them, pipe clamps, sash clamps, parallel clamps, you name it. So this was an idea of Izzy Swan. You just get a couple of pieces of timber, drill some holes in it about where you reckon the size of your tabletop's going to be, like so. You get some big dowel, which I didn't have, so I 3D printed some, it's basically lumps of round plastic, but it's 3D printed, and they go into the holes like so. Okay, one there and one in that hole. You put your timber, get it so that you can see it. You put your timbers that you're gluing flat on here, then you put another one of these on top, and then another two at the other end, so you can keep everything nice and square. And then to squeeze it together, the easiest way is just use a wedge. Okay, so you've got your timber there, you just drive your wedge in, and that squashes your timber this way to hold it all together. Now I'll be doing some videos on how all this works later, which you'll see, but that's how that works. I got technical and I modified the G-clamp, which is quite popular on Thingiverse, and I made that. Okay. So the theory in this one, which I haven't tested yet, is that that would mount on the end like that, and I could use that to squeeze the timber up. May or may not work, but I'll do a video on that. We'll see if it does work. One more thing, two more things. This I also found on Thingiverse, but it was in inches, so I simply remixed it into metric. And what you use this for is setting the height of your table saw blade. If you want a 19mm deep cut, you just set your depth on the 19mm that's sitting on the table saw and do it that way. Lastly, one more thing to show you. This is my Dewalt Table Saw that I love. Did I tell you I love Dewalt Table Saws? I also love a lot of Dewalt equipment. So if anyone from Dewalt is listening or watching this video, I'd really like a Dewalt thicknesser. So if you want me to review one, give us a shout. Okay, I'm only half kidding. This is a crosscut sled that I made for the table saw, and that slides, just a second, in the tracks on the table saw. Okay, so it pushes backwards and forwards. So you need something to slide in the tracks. Get rid of that. So under here you will see 3D printed track runners. There you go. One's in ABS and one's in PETG, so I'm just experimenting to see which one is more durable. But they sit inside those holes in there, and that moves beautifully backwards and forwards like so. I've removed the green screen and you can see my work area. It's a bit messy at the moment, but this is where I do all my bits and pieces. I have all my tools up here. I have more over here in a shelving rack, power tools, drills, sanders, nailers, all that sort of stuff, painting stuff, all the stuff that I need to do my woodworking. Now, I will show you a couple of things that I've made just recently, and here they are. This is a bedside table that I put together. I'll show you the timber that this is made out of in a sec, but that's what it is. I was very disappointed that the filler I used stands out like the proverbial dog's balls, but I may have to resand and redo that. But that's just a little bedside table. And over here, this is a outfeed table for my table saw, which I knocked together so that when you're pushing timber through the table saw, it's supported when it comes out the other end. Again, that's made in timber, which I'll show you. Okay, so if we'll come around here, that's what it's made out of. Both of those items are made out of old fence palings, and that's what they look like before I started. Okay, that's what they looked like. And with a bit of work, this piece becomes this piece. Now, there was hours and hours of sanding and planing to get that to that stage, because this wood is really old. It's a hardwood, some sort of eucalyptus, and it's like iron. It's that dry and hard, and it takes ages to do anything with. But anyway, that's just one of the projects that I've been working on. I'm currently working on another project, which is this timber, the Tassie oak that I showed you. And that's going to be a nest of 3 tables for my living room, and that will be coming up next. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour of my workshop. You'll be seeing a bit more of my woodworking adventures, which I've learnt pretty much entirely from watching YouTube. And we'll be posting those woodworking videos up on our other channel, which is, what did Anthony call it? The Man Cave, I think he called it. So you'll see a lot of my woodworking on there, and there'll also be stuff that relates to 3D printing, and anything with anything 3D printed used in the woodworking videos will also show up on the TheHotEnd channel. Now, before I go, there's one more thing that I need to show you that we've just recently received, and this was from Banggood, so bear with me. They sent us that. Now, it's a mini wood lathe, in case you didn't recognise it. So I'll be doing some videos on using this thing coming up very soon. And that'll be a review of the lathe, plus my experiences in using it, because I have never ever used a wood lathe before. So this could be interesting. And again, this might end up on both channels, I'm not sure. Alrighty, that's all I've got for you in this video. It was a bit long, but hopefully you'll be able to follow us and see what we're doing. As always, Patreon is a good way to support us. hit like, hit subscribe, and don't forget to subscribe to the other channel as well, because there'll be lots of interesting stuff on that too. All right, see you next time. Bye.